Good morning. I'm Bill Guillory. I live in Salt Lake City, and I'm pleased to make some comments today to talk about Tracee's new book. I actually had excuse me. I actually had a chance to read it a couple of months ago and wrote some comments about it. I really want to talk about three specific things here in terms of a book. The first is the book is smooth in terms of going between among different lifetimes, and I think that's presented in a way that is very natural because it is natural, transitioning from one lifetime to another lifetime to death and so forth. And it's a concept I think most people actually experience, so that you can see continuity between issues a person might have. For example, if I, which I have had many racial lifetimes in the United States as a black person, as a slave, and so forth. And it allows me to see those transitions. But more than that, it allows me to understand kind of a general theme. And that theme has always been like the underdog, like exceeding whatever barriers are in front of me, primarily human barriers. And when I can see it in that light, I began seeing that I guess about 20 years ago. It allowed me the freedom to begin to work at how I would transcend those kinds of barriers as I experience them. For an example, as I presently see things, and this is reaffirmed over and over again in Tracee's book, that my own personhood depends on me. And if I could reclaim my natural equality as a person, it would first start off being a belief. And then as I live consistent with it more and more, it would start to become a way of being. I didn't have to have a belief there. It was just who I showed up as a person. And these kinds of discussions are featured throughout her book. So rather than picking a couple of pages or reading some chapters, what I simply decided to do was to think about the whole book, because that's how it's programmed in my head now. And that's exactly what would happen if you did the same thing. And so when you see things both linearly over lifetimes as well as laterally in terms of relationships you have in each of those lifetimes, you see a much bigger picture of the whole thing. Now, when you see the big picture, then you can go about solving things in some kind of permanent way. Another example that I think is very timely in terms of her book is the COVID-19 virus. And what I began to think about is the connection of her book to some of the activities that I do now. One of the major courses that we've started doing in my consulting firm is called resiliency, a framework of resiliency. How do you create and build that? Because we have this low hum of the unresolved situation involving the virus that goes on in our lives all the time. A lot of us are trying to deny it. We're desperately trying to get back to everything we did before and to pretend that it's really not there or it's an acceptable part of life. People are getting ill, people are dying, but we're going to integrate that in and go about it. Those people who are impacted, I can tell you, it is not a passing fancy. It is becoming more and more pervasive, not only in the United States, which is number one, but throughout the world. So with that is coming a stress that exists in people. It started off as fear, and the fear of the unknown, what's going on. And nobody has any answers. Nobody has anything to provide some kind of stability. And the two major factors that are involved with that, adaptability and prevention. And I believe that the whole idea of psychological resiliency is the number one issue that most people are facing with their relationships at home, with their relationship with their children, at work. Am I going to still have my job? And all the changes that have occurred, you have to do work from your home. All of those things are crashing down on us simultaneously. And no one has any definitive answers about anything. And that's where her book comes in, because it's a very practical guide to start to have you understand something about yourself. something about your relationships, because whether you like it or not, you're stuck with them. I assume you love being with them, but you begin to understand the value of yourself, the value of the people around you. It begins, also you begin to resolve difficulties that have spontaneously occurred. You know, in many countries, the divorce rate is going up simply because people started to encounter each other in some definitive way, that they couldn't run from each other anymore. And so it goes through a lot of practical examples about how to handle that. And that's something I really enjoyed about it. It's just like a little mini book where you have scenarios which are mentioned throughout. And before long, you can see yourself in one of the stories that she tells. I know that's happened to me. It happened to me 3 or 4 times, as a matter of fact, and some that were presently going on right now. And what I like about it is that they're short snippets, and they're not like a whole chapter on one dimension of relationship, but here's an example too, without a whole lot of theory that you're flooded with, and some ideas about, let me tell you when I experienced this is what she says, let me tell you what I did, how I felt. And that makes it very personal to the individual. It makes it feel like you're having a conversation with that person, rather than, you know, here's the book here she is, and here I am. It's like all integrated together, as though the person is sitting across from your kitchen table while you're going through your story. And I really enjoyed that. And that makes it a book that you could pick up, and you don't have to start from the beginning. You don't have to start in the middle. You can start wherever you want. And you know, there's this little thing that people who are superstitious do. They just open a book and they flip to a page, and that was the right page to go to. And you start reading. And somehow whatever you read has some relevance to your life. In fact, what I said about the book in terms of the review I did was very, very similar to You Can Heal Your Life. And that's, of course, a classic, and by Louise Hay. And so you could actually pick up the book and find something that you need fairly quickly because of the chapter descriptions, and just flip to it, look through a couple of examples, and you find the one that's for you. So I had the real opportunity here that I thought, as I started reading and thinking about more what I wanted to share with you, is this is an unusual opportunity for Tracee to move into the mainstream and not write a big book that's exclusive to for people in metaphysics, because it's very practical. The language is very practical. It weaves in some spiritual concepts, but that won't be surprising because there's nobody to tell us anything now. So it obviously has to be something new, something different, something that sort of stretches us a little bit, but makes us think about it. And so this is an ideal opportunity because of what we experience in not only the United States, but worldwide, in terms of the stress, the added stress in our lives. We need something like this whole thing involving interpersonal resiliency. And that's what this book provides an opportunity for. And it strongly overlaps some of the courses I've been doing. And that's what I think the marketing strategy really ought to be. So take a look at it, pick up the book and at your local bookstore. And here's a copy of it right here. And there's the title of it. Flip through it and see, and stop at any page you want. And there's a little story there. And see, can you connect to some of the things she discusses? And if you do, you know, just use your intuition, pick it up. I usually measure the value of a book. If I'm willing to pay $15, $20, or $25 for whatever a book costs, if I can get one and hopefully 2 ideas that I can integrate directly into my life right now and start to practice those, and re-examine a week later, 2 weeks later, is it still there? And has it just become an integral part of my life? And it's been worth the value of it. So buy the book, take a look, and it was nice having a conversation with you.